hold up, man. We gotta talk about Jada Pinkett, this whole Jada Pinkett and Will Smith, because I'm very, very confused at this point with Jada Pinkett and Will Smith. All right. Jada Pinkett, as of recently, there's some new reports that's coming out. She had some new interviews in which I think Jada Pinkett is on a campaign. She's actually on a tour. You know what I mean? I think she has a book. So she just read a book. So that's the reason why she's disclosing all this information. Some of this might be clickbait. Jada Pinkett just might be just clout chasing at this point, right? Because I was under some understanding that I wasn't aware of before. Now, most of us were under the impression that Jada and Will Smith were together, right? Well, she dispelled that as of recently when she said that her and Will Smith were not together for were separated for 6 to 7 years. All right. Now, that was confusing because we didn't know that they was actually separated. New information. But some new information has unveiled. Miss Jada Pinkett. It's looked like she just has so much things to say, and she's actually controlling us like a puppet right now because she's disclosing things purposely to gain more sales for her book. Right now, Jada Pinkett said that after Will Smith slapped Chris Rock at the Oscars, she got back with Will. All right. Now, that's sad to me. All right. This whole thing that Will Smith has with Jada Pinkett is kind of sad. First of all, how can slapping somebody like Chris Rock get you back your girl? That's very hard to believe that slapping somebody is weak as that appears to be weak. The man can't be no more than about 125 pounds soaking wet. All right. And for you to slap somebody that appears to be weak, to all of us, we don't look at Chris Rock as a gangster, nor has he done anything that would make us think that he's a gangster. So how could a man slapping and somebody physically inferior, how can that get your woman back? I'm still kind of lost in Jada Pinkett, her approach with Will Smith, and how she judges Will Smith. So once again, she said after Chris Rock slapped Will Smith, she took Will Smith back. So though we thought that they were separated, because she told us that last week, they're not separated. They're actually back together. And we have to give thanks to Chris Rock. Chris Rock sacrificed his face for Jada Pinkett and Will Smith's relationship. Now, I seen something where Rick Ross came on. Rick Ross said that he has to rethink about, he rethinks about getting married. He has to reconsider getting married at this point after how Jada deals with Will Smith. So a lot of us men at home, you know, that kind of strikes a nerve with us when we're looking at this, right? I don't know how to look at Will Smith because Will Smith is always seemingly weak. Will Smith doesn't seem like an alpha male. He seems like a beta male, right? With all the accomplishments that he has, you would think that he's an alpha male, but Will Smith's more of a beta. So the way I look at it is Jada Pinkett is actually running this relationship and not Will Smith. All right, so I don't know. Will Smith definitely he might be happy at this point because he got back his wife, but at what expense? You lost your dignity, right? And I think they said a wise man once said, like, your dignity is the worst thing you could lose in your life. It's not even losing a member of your family or somebody that you love. Your dignity, to lose your dignity is the worst thing that you could lose in life. And I agree with those sentiments because how can you survive? How can you live? How can you thrive without dignity, right? It's basically it's a life, you stuck with a life of misery. That's a life of misery when you don't have no dignity. And when I look at Will Smith, it seems like he's lost a lot of dignity. All right. Shout out to Mitchell Williams. Shout out to everybody. But I see people pouring in the building. We gotta slow down a little bit because I'm seeing people in the comment section. I want to address everybody in the comment section. All right. First of all, shout out to Mitchell Williams in the building. That part. I see you, my G. Facts though. Nah, bruh. That part. Shout out to Tracy Sanchez in the building. That part. All right. Shout out to Rudolph Barmere in the building. That part. All right. Shout out to Tosh Sis in the building. That part. You know what I mean? And once again, shout out to Pierre in the building. That part. Shout out to everybody that's in the building. Now, Mitchell Williams, what you saying? Nah, bruh. Can't call him a beta without knowing him. Bullet. What? Okay, now listen. How you gonna compare? How would you say Will Smith is an alpha? First of all, to be an alpha, you have to be a leader, right? I don't find Will Smith to be a leader. I don't see Will Smith leading. I don't see nobody following in Will Smith's footsteps, right? I don't see nobody that has the confidence to say that Will Smith is their leader. We as men, we look down upon Will Smith. Me being an alpha, if you know me, right? I don't see Will Smith as a leader. And a leader is going to recognize another leader. Real recognize real. So I'm kind of confused at this point, Mr. Mitchell Williams. All right. But he said that he thinks that Will Smith is a what's the name? He thinks that Will Smith is an alpha. Who else in the building thinks that Will Smith is an alpha? Y'all need y'all to light up this comment section because Mitchell Williams says, nah, bro, can't call him a beta without knowing him. Bullet. That's what Mitchell is saying. But I want to see anybody else in the comment section. How many people agree with Mr. Mitchell and think that Will Smith is an alpha male? Because in order to be an alpha male, you have to be a leader, my brother. You know what I mean? And he's definitely not a leader. And nobody's following behind Will. The younger generation, I don't see none of the niggas in the hood following behind him. I don't see nobody in Hollywood coming to his defense. If he was an alpha, more people would be coming to his defense, right? All right, my man, the number paid actor for what does getting paid have to do with being an alpha? I'm confused at this point. You got to elaborate a little bit more. I'm giving you a chance here, all right? Who didn't he lead? Who did he lead? Who did he lead? Who? Who's it? Let me say something. I'm gonna shoot you some bell. What you gonna say, Nick Cannon? Nick Cannon is probably the most, bro. Nick Cannon is probably the only person that you can even say that followed in Will Smith's footsteps that probably would even agree with what we're saying right now. Other than that, I don't think nobody else in their right mind would consider Will Smith a leader as a male figure. I'm not speaking about his acting capability. I'm not talking about his money. I'm not talking about his accomplishments, all right? I'm talking about being that person that people want to follow in your footsteps, that people could feel trust, that people trust in your decisions, right? Do you think that Will Smith's making the right decision by staying with Jada for 6 years to be with a woman and be subject to all that ridicule? A woman that's constantly admiring another man that's passed away over 20 years. Tupac died at the age of 26, I believe, right? Tupac died in 96. I went 2023 with 23, 96, 27 years ago. And you consider Will Smith a leader for that. You consider Will Smith an alpha like that. I don't think an alpha could fall second to any other man. When you're an alpha, it's a certain position that you play. You're at the forefront. An alpha can't really be in the back, right? An alpha is used to taking charge and taking lead. Why? Because he's the strongest of the pack. I don't find Will Smith to be the strongest of the pack, to be honest with you, right? I'm confused at this point, but shout out to Mitchell anyways. I appreciate you. This is an unbiased platform. It's an unbiased platform. So if you feel like that, there's no problem with that, all right? But we're not going to stay on this for too long. But once again, they're back together, all right? So after 7 years of separation, Will Smith and Jada are back together. And she said subsequently she took Will back the night that he slapped Chris Rock at the Oscars. You remember that Jamaican slap he gave him from back here, right? When he ran up on Chris Rock and slapped him from back here. And he said, keep my wife's name out your mouth. That part. So that's what got Will Smith. So what Will Smith needs to do, he needs to look out for Chris Rock, because Chris Rock saved his life. Because at the end of the day, if Will Smith would have put his hands on somebody more gangster, it would have been a different outcome. Now, I'm not saying Will Smith is soft. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying Will Smith would just get beat up out here. I'm not saying that either. But what I am saying is slapping Chris Rock, that's a weaker vessel. Chris Rock is not no gangster. Chris Rock is not aggressive, neither. All right. He has no history of putting his hands on people being aggressive. So for him to slap Chris Rock and for Jada's pussy to get wet because Will slapped Chris Rock, that's a bit strange right there. That's a bit strange. We're not gonna stay too long on that. We're gonna move on to the next subject. Now, you guys, I know you guys have seen as of lately there was a shooting that took place in Maine. All right, that's on the news everywhere on the news. Basically, this man was